Okay, hello everyone. Once again, welcome back to our class. So today we're going to discuss the last topic from chapter 4, that is movement along demand curve and shift in demand curve. Okay, this you'll find in your textbook in page number 42, 43 and 44. This question is very important for your exams for 8 March and even for any kinds of competitive exams in future. Okay, so I request all of you to listen carefully. So first, we will see what is movement along demand curve or change in quantity demanded. Movement along demand curve is also known by change in quantity demanded. This occurred when demand for a commodity changes due to change in its own price. That means when our quantity demanded change, that is increase or decrease because of its own price of that particular commodity, because of the own price of the good, then we call it as movement along demand curve or change in quantity demanded. Okay, I hope that is clear, right? Okay, now movement along demand curve or change in quantity demanded is divided into two parts. One we call it as extension or contraction of demand, and other we call it as contraction of demand. Okay, so what is extension or expansion and contraction of demand? When there is change in demand due to change in its own price of the commodity, it is called expansion and contraction of demand. Okay, I repeat again. When there is change in demand due to change in its own price of the commodity, then we call it as expansion or extension and contraction of demand. Okay, now what is expansion of demand? When demand rises, when our quantity demanded rises due to fall in price, it is called expansion or extension of demand. On the other hand, when demand falls due to rise in price, when our quantity demanded falls due to rise in price, it is called contraction of demand. Okay, now we will explain that with the help of a diagram. You see, here in our diagram, price is shown on the y-axis and quantity demanded is shown on the x-axis, isn't it? Here you see, this will be O, okay? OP is the original price, AQ is the original quantity. So when price is at OP, quantity demanded is AQ, isn't it? Now suppose when price falls from P to P1, that is from original price to the lower price P1, then what will happen? The consumer will increase his demand, right? Therefore, quantity demanded now rise to how much? Q1, right? Or we can also say Q1. Okay, I hope you guys are getting me, right? I repeat again, original price here is P. Okay, original price is P. When price is original, then quantity demanded is AQ. But see, when price falls to P1, then quantity demanded is BQ1, right? I hope that is clear, isn't it? So when demand rise, when our quantity demanded rise because of fall in price, then we call it as expansion or extension of demand. Okay, I hope that is clear, right? Okay, on the other hand, when price rise from P to P2, then what will happen? As a consumer, we will buy less goods. That means our quantity demanded will decrease from Q to Q2, isn't it? So here our quantity demanded is OQ2 or P2C, isn't it? So that is called contraction of demand. Okay, I repeat again, original price is P, original quantity demanded is AQ or OQ. Okay, now when price falls to P to P1, then quantity demanded increase from Q to Q1. So that we call it as expansion or extension of demand. That means when quantity demanded rise because of fall in price, we call it as expansion or extension of demand. Okay, on the other hand, when price rise to P2 from P to P2, then what will happen? Our quantity demanded will reduce or decrease. That is from Q to Q2, isn't it? So we call that as contraction of demand. Okay, understand? I hope that is clear, isn't it? But you see, even if price falls or rise, the consumer is moving in the same demand curve, right? From A to AB, A to AC. So that is why we call it this as movement along the demand curve. Okay, I hope that is clear, right? Once again, I repeat from the beginning, movement along demand curve is also known as change in quantity demanded. Okay, now when we say change in quantity demanded means when demand for a commodity changes, that is increase and decrease because of change in its own price, change in price of the commodity. Then we call it as change in quantity demanded. Excuse me. Now, change in quantity demanded is again divided into two parts. One is extension or expansion of demand, and the other one is contraction of demand. Okay, so here P is the original price. Now, when price is P, quantity demanded is PA or OQ. But when price falls to P1, then our demand will obviously increase from Q to Q1, isn't it? And on the other hand, demand curve will move from A to AB, isn't it? So we call this as extension or expansion of demand. Okay, but on the other hand, when price rise to P2, then quantity demanded will fall. That is from Q to Q2, and at the same time, demand curve will move from A to point A to point C, isn't it? So this is called contraction of demand. Okay, I hope that is clear, right? Okay, good. All right, next we will discuss shift in demand curve. Okay, shift in demand curve is when there is a change in quantity demanded due to factors other than price. See, you have to listen carefully here. Under change in quantity demanded, quantity demanded increase or decrease because of change in price of its own commodity, because of change in price of the commodity, isn't it? But under shift in demand curve, there is a change in quantity demanded because of factors. What are factors? Factors like income of the consumer, price of related goods, taste preferences, and size of markets, and other factors, isn't it? So shift in demand curve means when there is a shift in demand curve, when there is a shift in demand curve, when there is a shift in quantity demanded because of factors other than price, then we call it as shift in demand curve. Okay, now you see the diagram. Shift in demand curve is again divided into two parts. One is increase in demand and decrease in demand. Okay, now what is increase and decrease in demand? When there's a change in demand due to change in factors other than the own price of the commodity, it is called increase and decrease in demand. Now what is increase in demand? When demand rises, that is from D to D1, due to change in factors other than price, then we call it as increase in demand. That means when demand curve shift to the rightward, we call it as increase in demand. And on the other hand, when demand falls due to change in factors other than price, that is to the left hand side, this one we call it as decrease in demand. Okay, so now we will explain with the help of a diagram again. You see here, price remain constant, that is OP. Okay, price is constant at all points. Now this DD is the original demand curve. Now when we say increase in demand means when there's a change in demand, when there's a change in demand from Q to Q1, not because of change in price, because price remain constant, isn't it? Not because of change in price, but because of change in factors. Change in factors like income of the consumer, size of the market, taste and preferences, price of related goods, and other factors. Okay, so when there is a change in quantity demanded, not because of change in price, because price here remain constant, but because of change in factors, then we call it as increase in demand. Okay, on the other hand, when demand decrease, when there is a decrease in quantity demanded, that is to the left hand side from original D to D2, not because of price, because price remain constant, but because of factors. Then from Q to Q2, then we call it as decrease in demand. Okay, I hope that is clear, right? Okay, so like I said, once you understand the logic, it's quite simple. You go through again, and if there's any doubt, you can ask me anytime. Okay, and for those who have your textbook, you turn to page number 42 and make a slight correction here. In page number 42, this should not be change in demand. Okay, you cut change in demand and write change in quantity demanded, and in bracket you write movement along the demand curve. Okay, and this also will be change, this also will be shift in demand curve, shift in demand curve. Okay, shift in demand curve or change in demand. Okay, I repeat again, cut it change in demand and write change in quantity demanded, in bracket write movement along the demand curve. Then here cut quantity and write shift in demand or change in demand. Okay, I hope that is clear, right? Okay, so like I said, go through again, and if there's any doubt, ask me anytime. Okay, thank you.